Welcome back to the Frith Guild podcast. I'm your host, Eric.
And I'm co-host Scott.
And with that, we're going to get into chapter 6, The Battle in the Tempest Sky. So we constantly talk about the plot of the books and everything like that. Sometimes we don't give our appreciation as much with the actual writing of Shami. So she gives us the best and most absolutely chilling descriptions with how Volke feels when he merges with Luthair, especially now that Luthair is a true form nightmare. And I'm going to quote this: "Coating me in icy magic that seeped down to my bones. My focus sharpened, my senses heightened, and when I took a breath, it seemed as though I drew in power rather than air. Luthair's shadow armor appeared near liquid, a cascade of inky darkness that shifted as if needed." Again, just absolute amazing descriptions there.
Chills.
Like, oh.
He has literal chills, and I think we do too at this point.
So Volke has to merge because a wild, shiny thunderbird appears along with 3 other normal thunderbirds that are all plague-ridden. And Volke kind of senses this. He can kind of feel them coming, and we're not sure if this is the true form side of it, if this is his being prior plague-ridden, and if he still carries that able to sense other creatures, although he does feel their heartbeat. So again, we're not sure what magic this is coming from, whether this is from his being plague-ridden or true form. So a lot of extra new things that Volke has to kind of learn now that he has a true form nightmare. With these plague-ridden creatures, and this goes back all the way back to the very first book, Nightmare Arcanist, in chapter 7, I believe, where Volke actually is fighting this plague-ridden Whiteheart, and how there's such an emphasis on the way that they speak and how they don't speak in a logical or rhythmic pattern, and that they have like dead fish eyeballs, which always gives me the chills.
And it's rough for Adelgis too, because he hears all of their thoughts. So he's anytime they're around getting bombarded with this creepy,
right?
I don't know what you call it, just creepy.
Just absolutely creepy. Yeah, that's good. Kudos for Adelgis for being able to withstand it. Hopefully, he's figuring out a way to block out thoughts instead of just having to deal with it and willpower through it. During the fight, Volke is using his terrors, going back to the OG move. He does target the 4 specific creatures. Now, the 3 that are not, the 3 smaller ones, they basically are unbonded thunderbirds that have been infected. And when he hits all 4 of them with the terrors, realistically, only the 3 get affected. So we're seeing again that the plague-ridden that are bonded are the ones that are not going to be affected as much as the non-bonded or unbonded creatures. With the one that we assume is bonded, we don't know where the Arcanist is, but they start to bring out their Thunderclap aura, which is doing a really good bit of damage since it's hitting the nails in the floorboards on the deck. It's hitting the steel rings on the rum barrels. Why is all the rum gone?
Where did the rum go?
Exactly. Not the rum. Like, come on, leave the rum alone.
And you know what? It's a good thing Addie stripped for us.
I bet Volke is very glad that he took his belt off for this. Oh, my Lord. So for anybody that doesn't know, the Thunderclap aura basically goes after any bit of metal that's on or around the aura. So if you play Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, that basically if you're wearing any kind of metal on you whatsoever, and the thunderstorm is coming, it will electrocute you, and unless you have like invincibility to lightning, you're going to die. Volke's fighting these creatures. Things are getting bloody. Captain Devlin steps in and is trying to put out the fires that is starting to come up on the ship because of all the lightning that's going on. It's freaking lightning everywhere. And then Fane and Zaxxas come up, enter the fray. And it's like, wait a minute, Zaxxas is probably doing more damage to the ship than the Thunderbirds are.
That's where the fires are coming from. It's not actually from the Thunderbirds. It's from Zaxxas.
It's like, oh wait, no, we have to put out the fires because of the lightning, and now we have to put out the fires because of Zaxxas too, because like he's probably causing more. We're thankful that we have Fane coming out, definitely because we have his ability to freeze all that blood that's coming out of the plague-ridden creatures. We don't want anybody else to get infected, because I don't know if we just happen to have more second ascension people to just happen to come out of nowhere to cause them to get a true form out of nowhere, but you know, they're not the reason why people get true forms specifically. Now, I did get goosebumps when Volke had finally ended the fight, stepping up, like shadow stepping underneath the Thunderbird, cutting up with his sword and then cutting through the Arcanist that happened to be inside the Thunderbird. Because, again, why not? You know, these things are creepy enough. And I know that this Thunderbird had like a description of having arms and legs, human arms and legs dangling out from it. But again, why not?
They're the bad kind of nightmare fodder.
Yeah. So Volke did cut through the Arcanist inside, instantly stopping the Thunderclap aura, thankfully, but did not actually kill the Thunderbird instantly. Devlin ended up ending the Thunderbird itself. And then the 30 smaller ones ended up fleeing, and they ended up going under the airship. And again, Volke knows where everybody is because he can just sense them. So not going to argue about why he has the power, but the fact that he has the power is great. Now, this is something that I understand the thought process behind, but it was something that was kind of that, like, they sent Titania, Forsyth, and Mesos under the ship to go fight off the smaller Thunderbirds. I don't really quite understand why, because if the Phoenixes get infected by the plague, like, this is a very severe thing.
It's a bold move. It's a risky move, that's for sure. You're banking on them being able to scare away the Thunderbirds from a distance with the fire, or somehow injure them enough that they fall away. It's very risky.
Exactly. And again, don't have the second ascension around to just happen to cause somebody to hit their true form, but I digress. So we do have Mesos coming in, though. That's a great thing to have the rock come through. And then Volke just kind of like swan dives off the railing of the Sun Chaser because he's going to go help in the fray.
And that brings us to Chapter 7, the Surge Stone Mountains, with Volke, again, just jumping over the railing.
Now, I do wonder if anybody on deck was just jaw dropped, like, what is he doing? Oh my god, he can't fly. Why did he just throw himself off the ship?
I feel like that's probably the way the majority of it was. When they rescued him, he wasn't flying. So it's not like Nightmare true forms are well known to know that they gain the ability of flight. It's not something I would assume they would get. So I would imagine most of the crew is like, well, see ya, Volke.
Well, shit, he just left. Who are we to stick around?
Hope he's got a plan. As he's falling, though, we do get, again, another amazing image, the cape transforming into wings, gliding through the air, grabs the Thunderbird with the shadows. Little rusty on the flying, but he's new to this, so I'll let him go. And is able to defend the ship, but the ship is going down. So Volke does come back on deck. There's a nice, cute little moment with Volke and Bayou. She recognizes him. She's excited to see him. I'm excited Bayou's back.
Yay.
But we do face the downside of the wind now breaking apart the ship between the Thunderclap aura, Zaxxas' fires, and the Thunderbirds just going at it. The ship's not in a great position, so they end up crash landing.
But before they do, Volke makes sure he goes to Addie and gets her nice and close to brace for impact.
Wouldn't want anything to happen, you.
No, not at all. Like, we know who he likes. And that leads us into Chapter 8, Supply Run. Captain Devlin does manage to get his ship down without it completely being destroyed. And I can only imagine just the sheer relief he has when he gets down from actually onto ground. No, he's described as being, he looks like he went through a Sharknado with fire. That sounds like a good idea for a movie.
It sounds like an idea for a movie.
Maybe 3? Did they do 3 of those? Or?
At least 2. There's probably a third, but at least 2 of them.
So Eviana comes on deck after the ship stops moving with his shield, and she's just losing it because she feels like she was just given this stupid task of protecting his shield so that she stays the hell out of danger.
Which is true.
Right. Hey, at least Zelfrey can say he has one person that sort of listens to him.
Sort of.
We'll see how long this goes on, but
given her streak, I wouldn't bank on that for a long time.
Now, Volke does also mention that he's very happy to see his shield again, and that he didn't make it quite right. And I wonder that if there's a person that's on the ship that is magical, that has blacksmithing abilities, that can work with trinkets, that could possibly fix the shield.
And would probably want to help Volke out,
I mean, I'd imagine there would be no issue with that whatsoever.
No, it's, hopefully.
Vethika, we get to see her come back as well. Vethika is getting better at her renewal magic, and this could be an amazing thing if they could start to imbue it into the ship. And I think that would be one heck of a thing. Not only do you have an airship, but do you have an airship that can renew itself?
The magic itself is just amazing when it's described as like the wood coming back together. And for that to just be kind of innate, and wherever it happens, you don't have to do repairs. The ship just kind of grows itself back together. So handy.
Yeah. Imagine getting into a fight, like an actual fight with somebody, like a pirate. And they're sitting there throwing volley after volley of cannon fire at you. And you've seen it impact and destroy the ship, but then all of a sudden it just reverts back to its original self.
The mast falls down and then slowly starts to come back up.
So she could have a heck of a business here if she wanted to with her Kepra magic.
She could sell that.
And along with Vethika and Akat, we have the other 5 Kepras that are all doing their part in trying to help fix the ship, but they aren't able to actually repair it if there are things missing, like pieces of wood and splinters and that kind of thing. If those are missing, they can only repair it so much with what they have available there. Volke realizes that he doesn't have a very good ability to really do anything to help, as far as he can't heal people, he can't fix things. So he decides, because he is not able to sit still whatsoever, he decided that he was going to go to the bottom of the mountain, try to see if he can find as much material as possible. Eviana wants to come with him and come help Volke. And I like this because she's that puppy that just is so excited to learn and to train with you, and just excited.
She's got that new energy.
Exactly, yeah. It's like when you first start a job and you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So much better than my last job. And everybody's like, yeah, give it about 6 months. And you're like, okay, like, I don't know what you're talking about, but okay. But he's trying to think of an excuse, but he realizes this is just, there's nothing he can say. Might as well let her help. So Eviana is going to train with Volke while they're going down there. And he is actually giving her some really good pointers for training in battle. He doesn't say to not hesitate, so I'm glad about that. Everybody's already gathered, ready to go. And Zelfrey basically says that they're going to go in to get materials so that they can help fix the ship, star shards, that kind of thing. And Zelfrey says that Volke is going to lead this. And he's going to basically send the 2 Phoenix Arcanists, because they have the Phoenix feathers that they can use for healing, make it into trinkets and actually heal people there. So most beneficial people for this kind of endeavor for the barters.
That brings us into chapter 9, a mountain trek. So despite Volke being the leader, Zaxxas is Zaxxas and is trying to take on his own little leadership role and trying probably just a little bit too hard.
Would you imagine if somebody actually put Zaxxas as a leader in a serious endeavor?
His head's big enough already, like to be given an official title, to have business cards. He
He's got the clipboard.
he does. They are trying to move a little bit quicker going down this path. Eviana wants to practice her magic, so Volke decides that they are going to shadow step with each other. So, of course, he grabs Abby, probably a little too close, brace for impact. Does not tell her that she's not going to be able to breathe, and shadow steps with her.
Now let's talk about the way that Addie gets ready to, like, she sort of gets ready to shadow step with him. She puts her arms around his neck. He puts his one arm around her waist, like, going to a basketball game and you're up on the jumbotron with the heart shape, you know.
It's a very like I got you, babe pose.
Exactly.
Eviana is jealous that Volke is able to do this, wants to be able to do the same, so she essentially sucker transports Zaxxas and unknowingly grabs him and goes through the shadows as well. They come out of the shadows, and of course the two of them are sassing each other back and forth.
And Zaxxas comes out with one of the best quotes that I can think from him. He says, "Follow the instructions of your superiors, especially in crucial missions where others are depending on you." like Zelfrey has been for the last 5 books.
Hey, do as I say, not as I do. As they make their way down the hill, Volke, again, not really sure kind of where the senses are coming from, but his spidey sense is going off. So they had run into a non-arcanist who they're asking about the town. He says, oh, there's a town a short ways away. They should follow him, and he'll take them to the town. And as he's given his little spiel, Volke is just getting a bad little feeling in the back of his mind. And it seems like he can sense that this man is lying to them.
And that's where Chapter 10, Skull Scorpions, kicks off. So, again, his spidey senses are tingling. Eviana's chomping at the bit like, oh, he's unjust. Let's kill him. Volke's like, well, let's pump the brakes here because I want solid actual proof, not just I feel like he's not telling me the truth or I feel like something's happening. And this is something that we saw with the Grandmaster Inquisitor back when Thronehold, that he had a similar sense with this, and this is probably how he based a lot of his decisions off of, is this kind of spidey sense of telling if people are lying or not. So with that, they continue on as if nothing happened. And for some reason, I think Eviana really wants to just hurt people. Like,
she wants to flex a little.
That person that wants to get in a fight.
2 or 3 beers deep.
She's going out like, I'm looking to get into a fight tonight, just throwing them back. And
let's see what happens. See who.
So I personally kind of like this from her because she's been protected her whole life. She's willing to get her hands dirty and, you know, start laying down some fists of justice.
She is spicy. She wants in, and she's 100% dedicated to murder.
Well, I don't. Yeah, she is. I was gonna say, I don't know about murder. Yeah, she is. She's wholly, like, again, all about it. Nothing about that has been like, I want to be just and just punish them. Like, no.
Deserves to die. He shouldn't have lied to us.
I wonder if this is coming from her grandma or her oma.
I'm sure it was instilled at a young age that
she's watched enough people get scorched.
Yes.
So Volke is kind of trying to calm things down, throws out a pillar quote at her, and Addie kind of looks at him, gives him a little special smile, and she's like, I actually kind of find that kind of attractive of you still quoting the pillars. Ever the romantic. Because we know how great Volke is. He blurts out, pillars are perfect for starting pillars.
Smooth.
And it's just that, like, Why did I say that? Thankfully, Addie was understanding of what he was trying to say, and she thought it was cute that he still gets kind of nervous and nervous around her. So, and then here we go again, getting attacked by two wild skull scorpions. Now we're on a 2v2 battle again. Gosh, all sorts of wild Pokemon appearing today. So, as they're fighting these skull scorpions, Volke gets the high ground, finds out there's actually two Arcanists that are controlling these skull scorpions, along with a mortal, which was the guy that they saw on the way down. They try to go and attack them all, and all the Arcanists, and Volke kind of starts doling out justice as Eviana screams. And this is where, very dramatically, where chapter 10 ends off. So now we've got to wait until next week to figure out why Eviana's screaming. She should be a capable Arcanist to do something.
She wanted a fight. She's getting her fight.
Right? You can't choose your enemy. And with that, we're going to jump into the bestiary section. We do have a couple of mystical creatures we're going to go over today. Did you want to do the skull scorpions?
Yeah, I'll take skull scorpions. So we get a quick description of them. They are these giant ebony scorpions. They're decorated in the skulls of the prey, which is probably where the skull scorpion piece comes from. I get it. I know what you're thinking. We don't really know too much about them. Not really sure on their trial of worth, but they are a tier 2. And as far as magic goes, again, we don't really see too much. We do see that they are able to sense tremors, and that they do grant the ability to essentially move through the ground, not through stone, but kind of loose earth type of ground. So we'll get to see that in play a little bit more in kind of the next few chapters. And they do also have the evocation of venom. So that being kind of their main weapon.
And then the next creature that we have is the thunderbird. We don't really have a lot of information on these as well. So what we do know is that they are giant birds of the sky with an affinity for lightning. They are typically amber colored. They are a tier 3 mystical creature. And realistically, the only thing we can realistically know about it is that they can evocate lightning, and they do have that thunderclap aura. And the thunderclap aura also does cause thunderstorms whose lightning strikes out at all nearby metal, incapacitating or killing all those in contact. I don't know if they can... I doubt that they could manipulate wind.
I don't think so, because that feels like it crosses too much into the rock area. So it seems like they probably are more just lightning focused, and then the rock is the lightning plus wind type.
Well, and I imagine that even with tier 3, because again, our descriptions are fairly broad for each tier of creature. I imagine even within a tier 3, one can still be stronger than the other, even though they're still tier 3. So I think, like you're saying, with the Thunderbird, it's like on the lower end of the tier 3, whereas a rock would be at the higher end of the tier 3s. All right, and with that, that's the end of this week's episode. I don't think there's anything coming up on the horizon, anything new as far as we're aware of at the moment, at least for when this is being recorded.
Next up, I think the next upcoming is Time Marked Warlock 2, which is crazy, but I think that's the next one.
That'll be in November, so by the time this is actually posted, we're not going to be too terribly far off from that.
Yeah, which is crazy.
All right, with that, we're going to end today's episode, and we'll catch you guys next week. Thank you.
Eric, Scott, and I want to thank everyone for listening today. We post a new episode every Wednesday morning at 11 Eastern, 10 Central, and 8 Pacific Standard Time. We are on all podcasting platforms and are also on YouTube as well for video. After the additional episode airs, we post chapter-by-chapter videos every day in a smaller, easier-to-digest format. We do want to give a special shout-out to the final member of our team, Dan Mackison, one of the admins for the Frith Chronicles Wiki, link listed below, and doing his best to keep everything running smoothly behind the scenes. If you want to reach out to us, you could email us at frithguildpod@gmail.com or on Facebook or any other social media by searching for Frith Guild Podcast. Just to remind everybody, we have links to everything in the description below on both the podcast and YouTube.